We're here for the all candidates meeting for our federal election, for the federal candidates for Simcoe-Grey. We are presenting this on behalf of the Blue Mountain Chamber of Commerce, the Blue Mountain Village Association, and the Thornbury Business Improvement Area. So again, thank you all for taking time out of your busy days, your evening, to come out and participate in what's a really, really important thing, the democratic process of this country. The candidates who have been very gracious in attending tonight. I want to introduce them firstly, SHERRI Jackson from the Green Party of Canada. LORNE KENNEY from the Liberal Party. DOWDALL, Progressive Conservative Party of Canada. And ILONA Matthews from Canada's New Democratic Party. So I just want to take a second and explain the format. We solicited and received questions from chamber members and the public that represent this small business, tourism, agriculture scope and perspective. We really tried to focus this around issues that mattered to our community. You know what, there's a whole lot of things that are involved in this federal election, but you know, how does this hit us at home? And that's what we've tried to do. So you will see questions and are really focused on that. 10 questions were provided to the candidates before tonight's event for review and thought. And these questions will be asked by the local members of our chamber and the community that put them forward. So firstly, each candidate gets 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and we should start with that right now. And why don't we start with SHERRI and move to the right.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. I've been an entrepreneur in publishing, education, and music for the past 22 years. I was a legal editor for Canada's top 3 legal publishers. I founded and ran a Montessori school for 10 years where I taught children to be responsible, civic-minded, environmentally conscious, tolerant, and peaceful. I'm running for MP because I am tired of the status quo. I believe we have an obligation to change what isn't working. Most of all, I'm here because I'm a parent, and I care deeply about the future of my children and my grandchildren and your grandchildren. A year ago, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reported that we have until 2030 to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half, or otherwise face catastrophic climate disaster equatable to global nuclear war. If we knew we'd face a nuclear attack in 10 years, we would be taking serious and decisive action to combat it. Canada must take action. Our youth demand it, and we must respond. We must join the rest of the world in embracing a $3 trillion per year green economy that will create millions of jobs, mitigate climate change, protect natural resources, and create a fair, equitable future for all. We have a plan to do that in a fiscally responsible way that has been evaluated by the Parliamentary Budget Office and found to be reasonable and viable. The Green Party is aligned in its core values with 90 other Green Party countries. Our platform focuses on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that Canada and United Nations member states agreed to accomplish by 2030 at the Paris Accord. We have a plan to achieve those goals. This election matters. We have an opportunity to make Canada a world leader in the sustainable economy movement and lift ourselves into a more equitable, healthy, prosperous nation that leaves no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. And now over to Lorne Kenney.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. My name's Lorne Kenney, and I'm the Liberal candidate for Simcoe-Grey. I don't have an agenda or political ambition, except for one thing, and that is that I want to be the best riding-focused member of Parliament you have ever had. Over the past 15 years, I want to suggest that we have been very poorly represented. We have, in fact, been used as a springboard for political ambition. That's not me. I got into this because of my concern for the environment. It's our grandchildren, my children, your grandchildren, my grandchildren, whose futures are at stake. And we have to ask which party is in the best position to move Canada forward quickly to a more sustainable relationship with its natural environment and away from our overdependence on fossil fuels. There are a lot of local issues that I think we need to talk about too. Two of them are attainable housing and new business development. Let me say a little bit about myself. I'm a local guy. I own my own small business. I'm very active in the community. I'm a Rotarian of many years. And I got into this partly because of what Rotary teaches you, which is service above self. And that's what prompts me at this stage to want to put my life, other things I might be doing, on hold to serve you. When I say I'm local, I literally do have the 5 generations in All Saints Cemetery. My work background after, in addition to being
So maybe I didn't really anticipate how that would work. So I think we're going to suggest everybody stay at their seats. I don't want to create any advantage. My apologies on that, but thank you, Lorne. Next on our agenda is Terry.
Thank you very much. And first and foremost, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event here this evening. I know it's a lot of work, and thank all of you for being here tonight. My name's Terry Dowdall, and I'm originally from Kitchener-Waterloo, but I moved up about 35 years ago to the community of Baxter, which is a small community, similar to this, I guess, but even smaller. At that time, I was a small business owner and still am today. And I was asked by the local school board to be their community rep at the school. So I agreed. You couldn't have children at that time in the school system, and that was my first taste of public service, and I enjoyed it. And at that time, in 2000, then I decided to put my name forward as a local councillor, and was successful. And then in 2003, I put my name forward again as the deputy mayor of Essa Township. And was successful, and thus sat on county council as well. All the mayors and deputy mayors in the county of Simcoe form as county councillors. In 2010, I ran for mayor and was successful. And 2014, again, right before the election, we had a tornado in our community. And what happened there opened my eyes to see exactly how important it is and how strong a community can be. We had people coming to help us, whether it was, first responders were there. We had social programs through the county to help us out. So many things to think about. So I ran for mayor again. At that time, I thought I was going to run for deputy warden of the county of Simcoe. So I got that election in 2014 and the county decided we needed to have a voice. And this is where I got my interest in the federal perspective. So they put a name forward of the 32 councillors to run for Federation of Canadian Municipalities, which is a lobbying organization similar to Association of Municipalities of Ontario. So what they do is actually lobby for the government. So there, it's all the things that are important in your community: crime, attainable housing, affordable housing, infrastructure, internet, all of those things. And that's why I decided to run.
Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our agenda is Terry. Thank you, Terry. Next on our And next up is Ilona Matthews from Canada's New Democratic Party.
Thank you very much. I have lived in Wasaga Beach for 23 years after moving to the area with my husband, David Matthews, who has previously run in provincial and federal elections in Simcoe-Grey as the local NDP candidate. I have 2 adult children. Their names are Aaron and Delina. Both of them grew up in the area and have now successful careers. I was very grateful for the opportunity to raise my children away from Toronto, my community of origin. I have worked as a part-time school bus driver in Collingwood and transitioned to a full-time position as transit driver with Georgian Coach Lines in Wasaga Beach. I have seen how the community is strengthened and connected through transit, and I view it as an important public service. I have seen how transit is critical in the daily lives of so many vulnerable and often low and middle income communities, including families with children, people living with disabilities, and the elderly. Local transit makes it possible to do daily tasks as well as to access a variety of local services, such as community programs, to reach doctors and specialist appointments, or to participate in community events. I recognize the importance of reducing emissions and that green public transit is a critical component in that effort. I am pleased to see the new local Lynx transit system roll out and will work to expand public transit services across the riding and beyond. I firmly believe in the idea that change must be made for the many and not just for the few. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you. We're now going to get into the questions. And each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. The first question will be read by Tony Poole, who is Vice President. Where's Tony? Tony is Vice President of the Thornbury Business Improvement Association and is also a Blue Mountain Chamber of Commerce board member and a small business owner in the town of Thornbury.
Thank you. This question for the candidates. Costs and taxes for small business are higher than they've ever been. What would you do to help lessen the burden for business in our community?
Okay, we have randomized this order, so nobody goes first each time, and we will start with Ilona.
Presently, the small business tax is 9%. We would seriously look at reducing payroll tax, for new hires. We would reduce CPP and EI deductions, which would be government subsidized for 1 year. The other thing we have is we are proposing can everyone hear me? Okay. We are proposing a universal Medicare package, a head to toe, which means that some employees, like small business employees, I'm sure would love to give their employees benefits, but they can't afford them. So if this Medicare, universal Medicare, is implemented, then they wouldn't have to worry about it. They wouldn't have to worry about the cost of paying for benefits for their employees, because their employees would have their benefits.
Terry?
Thank you. As a fellow small business owner, I understand how hard it is and how hard it is to operate a business day to day. And I can honestly say that our government is strong and supportive of all small businesses. We are going to repeal Trudeau's tax tax increases on small businesses. We're going to exempt spouses from the Trudeau tax increase on small business dividends. We're going to make it easier to navigate Canada's tax system and Canada Revenue Agency. We're going to reduce federal regulations by 25%. We're going to assign a minister to report directly to the Prime Minister to lead to all these red tape reductions. And we're going to champion Canada's small businesses to all the world. So we understand how important it is to get money back into those business owners. I know myself, business owners do one of two things. When they make more money, they invest and create more jobs, and that's important. Or they spend money in the local economy, which is good as well. So we are definitely proud supporters of small business.
Lorne, you're up.
Thank you. Well, let me just point out that the current federal government lowered the small business tax from 11% to 9%. That actually makes Canada the lowest among the G7 countries. And it saves small businesses as much as $7,500 per year. There are other measures that have been announced recently, including cutting red tape and new funding. For example, a re-elected Liberal government will provide funding for 2,000 new entrepreneurs every year to start a business, will assist new businesses wanting to expand their online services, and help business owners looking for advice or support. Helping new business of the kind that we need in this area is uppermost in my mind. We need jobs and new businesses that are idea-based, export-oriented, and which are inherently environmentally sustainable. Those are the kind that we need to fill in the gap in the local economy, which is essentially U-shaped. And I believe that's our future. Those are the kinds of companies that create careers for people. And if there's one thing that people here complain about, it's the overabundance of low-wage employment and the need for career-oriented employment of the kind that enables people to enjoy the area.
Sherry.
Thank you. I have also been a small business owner since 1992, so I understand the challenges that small businesses face. Small businesses with less than 100 employees make up 98% of our economy, and the success of our local small businesses means dollars circulating in our local economy. Someone said to me once, Amazon doesn't sponsor my kids' soccer team, and that's why it's critically important that we make sure that our small businesses in our local communities are thriving and supported. We need to make sure that the burden of taxation is fairly distributed so that small businesses are not paying more than their fair share and big businesses are not getting away with paying less than theirs. As your MP, I will work to reduce the tax burden on small businesses by reducing payroll taxes and income taxes and source deductions. We will establish a database of information that government agencies will be able to share. That will reduce the paperwork burden on you, the small business owner, by eliminating red tape and duplicative processes that take up too much of your time. I will require all new legislation to consider its impact on small businesses to ensure it does not cause undue hardship that is unforeseen. We'll make it easier for small businesses and farmers to apply for grants and subsidies by reducing the administrative process. Currently, we are overburdening our small businesses by requiring them to meet the same objectives as large corporations, and that is unfair. Small business owners need to be able to focus on the health and well-being of their businesses and their employees, not wasting time they don't have meeting arbitrary governmental requirements that offer no value added to them. Thank you.
Our next question will be is from Nancy Griffin, who is a chamber member. Thank you, Nancy. First off on this question will be Terry.
Good evening. I actually have added on another question. I hope you don't mind. Because what I am finding is that there's a lot of talk about small business and youth and less than just a minimum wage. And I think that's an opportunity. So my question is, would the candidates be willing to focus on an all-candidates meeting that is youth-focused exclusively? So I'll just leave that thought with you. The question that I want...
Hang on. So this is not your original question.
No, this is...
So I would ask that maybe take like the last 15 seconds to address this add-on question. Is that okay with everybody?
Good response. Thanks, Steve.
You weren't supposed to go off the plan.
I know. Okay, so this is my question. Our regional labor supply is the tightest across all of Ontario, requiring businesses locally to look for labor out of region. One of our options is innovative immigration pathways, but our current programs, such as Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program or student work visas, are very restrictive. Service Canada has made policy changes making the program very arduous to use. What would you propose to do to modernize the immigration system for labor supply relief?
Thank you. So Blue Mountain, certainly with its robust tourism industry and agricultural businesses, has a real need for employers or for employees, and that's recognized. It's a major problem here because there's many facets to the reasons why we're having trouble there, and I got to commend the local council. I know that they're working hard on a housing strategy, an affordable housing strategy, to have those individuals that they'll actually be able to work here and stay here. So I think that's really important. But bringing new people in from other countries is extremely important as well. I was in Germany last year with the County of Simcoe on an economic development trip, and it was one of the common threads to a lot of the home businesses there that have locations as well here in County of Simcoe and Grey County. And basically the problem is, whether it's skilled or regular people, they need it to move a lot quicker. So we need a government that's going to cut the red tape, and that's exactly what we plan on doing. We understand that we personally first want to get Canadians that are here those jobs, which is very important, but we can't fill them all. So we recognize that. So we need to streamline that process to make sure that all those people, especially if they're continual ones, many of them come back regularly. So we definitely need to find a way so that they can do it in a simplified way to bring all those people in. So thank you.
Lorne?
It's a difficult question. There's some possible answers. One program that might serve to attract additional immigrants to this part of the country is the provincial nominee program. It's there, it can be used. But this brings a whole lot of issues to the surface. The flow of refugee claimants to Canada at both regular border points and at other points represents a distinct possibility. While there are always settlement issues in terms of dealing with recent arrivals, the burden on Montreal and Toronto is really noticeable. There are strong incentives that lead recent arrivals to seek employment immediately, and they do. I'm sure some of you know of the Syrian refugees who've arrived in our communities and who have been welcomed by different families and groups. I think there might be some scope there to sponsor people additionally who are keen, eager, and anxious to make a productive contribution to our society. The basic issue, though, is in fact the overall flow of immigration. And given the aging of our labor force, we obviously need to increase the number, the quota. And indeed, that's something that is happening under Minister Hussein. And by the way, I have a little bit of experience with the Syrian refugee family. They're fabulous.
Sherry, you're next.
Thank you. Canada has an aging population, and without immigration, our tax base is not as broad as it needs to be and able to generate the amount of revenue necessary for us to meet our financial obligations. It's critical that we attract immigrants in order to provide the sources of labor that our small businesses and farmers rely on. We have to stay true to our identity as a just, fair, and open country because the majority of immigrants who come to this country are seeking a better life and are committed to becoming part of the cultural mosaic we are renowned for across the world. Currently, the process for immigration is bureaucratic and time-consuming. Farmers and small businesses do not have the time to deal with red tape. They need workers, and it is a time-sensitive issue, especially for farmers. We need to streamline the system, make it more user-friendly for employers as well as immigrants, and work with employers to see where improvements can be made. Improvements like working with professional associations to evaluate our applicants' credentials. This expedites accreditation and professional opportunities and gets you the employees that you need faster. Eliminating the temporary foreign workers program so we can fill the demand for workers efficiently and eliminate confusion and duplication. Streamline paths to permanent residency and citizenship for international students and foreign workers whose skills are needed in our labor force right now. And provide incentives to immigrants to locate in rural areas like this, offering free language training and building bridges for new families within the community. That's what I would do to modernize the immigration system. Thank you.
Ilona?
I agree with you. I think that's awesome. That program is awesome.
I think that's allowed.
And but like it's almost as if I should have said that, you know. But I
Can
will
you just
add-
go ditto? And
But I will add something. I do agree. We need to speed the system up by deregulation. I normally believe in regulation. Industry needs to be regulated, but this needs to be deregulated. But along with that, there must be tighter inspection, especially of living conditions of these people, because there have been some horrific situations. But not all areas have this issue. Areas such as this have a positive environment for the. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I forgot. So areas such as this do have positive environments for workers as well. And I guess the people that do provide the positive environments for the workers are the ones that are having issues with the arduous process because they really don't need to go through that. So I totally understand.
thank you for all those very insightful answers. So our next question will be read by Casey Thompson, who is a small business owner right here in Thornbury. Casey? And first off on this one will be Lorne.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to be here. My question is around attainable housing. What strategies and incentives would you put on the table to both foster and help develop attainable housing?
Without doubt, attainable housing is one of the major issues that confronts this community of South Georgian Bay. The federal government has announced a national housing strategy of $55 billion over a 10-year period. The purpose of that strategy is to basically renew the housing stock of Canada. And that means that there are programs and there's assistance that can be made available that will help people and communities to build the kinds of housing that they need. How do you do that? Well, it's not all one level of government's problem. In fact, it's the problem of every level of government: municipal, county, provincial, and federal. And they all need to work together. They all have a piece of the puzzle. And I propose that we actually do that we actually get the 4 tiers of government working together to accomplish a common goal. It's there to be done. It has to be done. Nobody in this country should live without a house and a home. It's just plain wrong, and that, in fact, is why the National Housing Strategy was presented, adopted, and it is being enriched by the Liberal government.
Next up is Ilona.
We would propose cooperative housing and federally run housing, which would give people the opportunity to rent to own or purchase at cost. I would form a committee to decide which regions need it sooner, where the emergencies are, with the cooperation from the province and the municipalities. That's it.
And Terry, you're next.
Thank you. This is an absolutely huge problem here in Blue Mountains and actually through all of Simcoe-Grey. I know at the county, I can speak to the county, that we opened up a 149 unit in Collingwood, a revitalization of an area, which I think is important, and 99 in Wasaga Beach. And I know that this council, I was just reading, purchased a building, the grocery store, I believe. So I think that's good. And Lauren, we're going to agree on something, which is good. We are going to agree that I think it's all levels of government's responsibility to get together and work on this. And that's what you're seeing in a lot of the areas. But I think what's forgotten sometimes is the private sector. The private sector, I actually own rental properties myself, and I can tell you there needs to be incentives. If you look in all communities now, basically all they're building are condos. It's the sell, it's the gone. We have to build apartment-type buildings and new dwellings, and we have to get the private. It can't all be government. So we have to find new ways, whether it's a discount on some of the costs, because it costs per square foot, whether it's the, any of the cost development charges for that. If we want to really make a dent, we need to do that. We also got to look at, I've met with many of the larger developers, the GTA that are up in this area. They have to come out, and I stress all the time, we should actually come up with a tiny house community. Do it really beautiful, do it nice, do nice lights on it. We need to have those first-time home buyers getting into the market, and I think that would be fantastic if we could come up with a way to have some kind of new housing structures that are out there. So at the end of the day, I think everyone should have the opportunity for a house, but you need a government that isn't going to charge you too much taxes so that people will actually be able to afford it. You can't suck and blow. You can't be charging people all kinds of money, taking money from them from the government, and then expect that they're going to be able to have money to buy a house. So we have to cut taxes, get rid of the carbon tax, quite frankly. We have a good plan, and we need to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you for everybody for those insightful answers. Our next question will be read.
I didn't get to go.
Hang on. Oh, did I miss you?
You missed me.
My apologies.
That's okay.
You know what? Sorry.
It's okay.
Sherry?
All right, thank you. So people tell me that they have lived in this community for their whole lives, but now cannot afford to purchase or rent in their hometowns. And as many of you know, we not only have a problem with affordability for housing, but we have a problem with homelessness, and especially youth homelessness, and that is not okay. As your MP, I will work to ensure that safe shelter and affordable housing are legislated as human rights in Canada. We propose a national housing program which will create 250,000 new units and 150,000 rehabilitated units across Canada over the next 10 years in order to combat homelessness. We will assist renters by increasing funding for new builds by $750 million and $750 million for rehabilitation of rental units, which will benefit 125,000 rental households. We will work with municipalities to change bylaws to permit multifamily buildings and cooperative residences similar to those in Scandinavian countries, which bring communities together, share repair and maintenance responsibilities, and support inclusiveness. We will build programs to pair seniors with young people in co-housing to help seniors get the company and the support that they need and help youth with affordability. This model is working in university towns like Hamilton. We will provide financing to nonprofit housing organizations and cooperatives to build and restore quality, energy-efficient housing for seniors, people with special needs, and low-income families. And we will eliminate the first-time home buyer grant, which has contributed to the speculation market and driven up housing prices to the point where normal, everyday people can no longer afford to stay in their own communities.
Thank you, Sherry, and my apologies. I'm not sure what I did here. But anyway, our next question will be read by Sarah Fillion. Sarah is a small business owner right here in Clarksburg and actually heads up the Downtown Clarksburg Village Association. Over to Sarah.
Thank you for everyone for being here, and thank you to the Blue Mountain Chambers of Commerce for putting on this great event. My question is on transportation. Transportation infrastructure, roads, transit, rail links, air, etc., is critical for economic and environmental sustainability in rural and semi-rural regions like ours. How will you work with the province, upper and lower tier municipalities to ensure we can move from planning to building? Thank you.
Okay, first up is Sherry.
Thank you. I believe that reliable, safe, affordable transportation is critical for all communities in Canada. We used to have a national rail system, which was part of a plan for uniting our country in confederation. We need to reestablish that to bring us together, reduce our emissions, and build a bridge from coast to coast to coast. Our strategy is to create a national transportation system and quickly move to zero emissions public transportation for all Canadians by 2040. We'll do this by shifting to high-speed trains and public electric vehicles, as well as creating charging infrastructure nationwide. We will commit $600 million to this project in 2021 and an additional $720 million by 2023 and invest in this mandate annually. We will ensure municipalities receive guaranteed funding to improve and expand efficient, safe, and carbon-neutral public transit. We will expand regional rail networks to include hubs that connect with light rail and e-buses to reach all areas of Canada, including rural communities like this one. We will create a walking and cycling infrastructure fund for municipalities to improve these services locally. We will also invest substantially in municipal infrastructure in cooperation with municipal governments for community revitalization, local community farms and gardens, and funding for arts, culture, and heritage projects. And we will create a national energy grid to green our electricity supply and create over 4 million jobs within the green energy sector. In doing this, we will not only bring our public transportation system in line with the most progressive countries in the world, we will reduce pollution, create millions of high-quality jobs, and grow the green economy.
Ilona?
So how are we going to move from planning to building? Well, this is what we think. We would allow municipalities to directly apply to the federal government for such funding, which right now, that's not possible to do because you have to go through the province. This would be a safeguard against a scenario where a provincial government refuses to work with the federal, as has recently happened in Ontario. Putting services like links in Simcoe County has been very successful. And there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't do that. We couldn't hook up Thornbury, Grey County with all of that, with the whole area of Simcoe County. That's something that we are going to work on. We would work on. We would force the gas. We would ensure that the gas tax fund is transferred to the municipalities as well, so that we could have more funding. That's the plan.
Thank you. Next up is Terry.
Thank you very much. First of all, for any good infrastructure project to move forward, you need all levels of government to fund. So traditionally, it's a third, depending on the project. I know for a fact, coming from a municipal background, the toughest part of budgeting or for looking into the future, your needs for your community, is to have a clear, identified funding source. So I would push for a funding source similar to the gas tax, which goes to the municipalities now, that they know each year that they're going to be able to go forward, whether it's something for their infrastructure, whether it's bicycle lanes along the highways, whatever it needs, rails, trails as well are huge in all of our communities to have active lifestyle. I know at the County of Simcoe it was something we invested in. We actually had a rail line that got pulled out to put trails in. That seems to be the norm more so than getting a new rail line, which would be fantastic. But I just know there's a lot of hurdles to get through each level of government to get there. So I propose that we will cut red tape for a lot of projects and move them forward. But I think at the end of the day, we did the 404 bypass, where I've worked with many of the ministers in my 15 years at the county to let them know what is truly important in your community and how we move it forward. And I know, like I said, coming from a municipal background, the monies are hard to find for those large projects. So you got to make sure that your MP, your local voice, will be there to ensure that those projects will be funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorne?
The question asks, how would we work together? And I think the short answer is that we have to work together in a collaborative and cooperative manner. Again, recognizing that each level of government has a role to play. The transportation problems we face around here are indeed severe. One need only drive Highway 26 from here to Barrie or here to Owen Sound day by day to know that we have enormous problems. We lack public transit, and we definitely need bus service between here and those two major municipalities of Barrie and Owen Sound, improved so that it's actually viable for people to take public transit as opposed to driving their cars. Beyond that, we need, I would argue, some form of connection through the GO system. Again, it would take federal and provincial collaboration to produce that, but there should be a connection that enables people from here and from Collingwood and Wasaga Beach to meet up with the GO system in Barrie, and a much better service than anything that is out there now. One other facility that really needs focus and attention is the Collingwood Airport. I've met and been in discussions with the new owner of the airport, and I mean to pick them up once the election is over. There's a ton of potential that he and I both can recognize in terms of both business travel and especially advanced forms of tourism.
Thank you, Lorne. Our fifth question will be read by Gavin Leach, who is a lawyer practicing in the area and also a chamber board member.
Thank you for being here tonight. If elected Member of Parliament for our riding, what action will you take to support the availability and increase of government grants and zero to low interest financing for small businesses, including innovative startup companies in the area, and how will you promote the interests of small business in the area generally? Thank you.
First off on this one is ILONA.
I believe that we must offer small businesses interest-free loans and offer them the same grants that the corporations get. We will offer grants especially to those innovative startup companies in the green energy field. Imagine a government that works for us instead of the rich and powerful.
Terry?
Thank you. The Conservatives understand the importance of small business in the local economy. We believe by cutting the carbon tax, reducing federal regulation by 25%, and repealing the Trudeau tax on small business, that we will see an increase in prosperity for many of the entrepreneurs. We plan to cut the $250 million the Liberal governments are spending on the Asian Infrastructure Bank, and we're also going to cut the large corporate bailouts like the Irvings have received. We think and we believe that we should spend our money on Canada and all Canadians. We as well are often looking for ways to attract new business. We often do that in economic development. Our goal is all these new businesses, and we seem to forget the ones that we have here. And it's a lot easier to take care of the businesses that are here, to listen to those individuals and see how we can help them. So whether that's, it could be financial grants so that they can grow their business, either interest-free or with a small payment on it. Like I said earlier, those businesses are the ones that multiply the money in your community. They are the ones that create the jobs, and they are the ones that allow you to live here, so there are local businesses to go to. So we are certainly going to, we're going to invest and we're going to promote in all the businesses to ensure that this community and all the communities in Simcoe-Grey are vibrant. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorne?
At least half of a diligent member of Parliament's purpose is to make sure that people, businesses, and organizations in his or her constituency who have real needs are correctly linked to the right governmental programs. But it's more than just putting them together. It's making sure that their case is made, that their needs are expressed, and that everything that can legitimately be done to advance their case is done. Yes, it's always nice to see an MP with the big presentation checks, because it means that a whole lot of hard work has been done to make sure that the people, business, or organization has merited the assistance that's being provided. It's been a long time since we've seen a lot of those presentation checks. There used to be, at one stage, about one a week in the Collingwood Enterprise Bulletin or the Owen Sound Sun-Times or the local paper, the Thornbury paper. We haven't seen that in recent years, and I attribute that to the lack of attention that has been paid to the needs of this constituency by previous members of Parliament. And I propose to replace that with real diligence.
SHERRI?
We have to find ways we can work together to improve the overall appeal of our community to full-time residents and visitors alike, and ensure that we offer a variety of products and services that make our community self-reliant so people don't have to go elsewhere. We have an influx of tourists and part-time residents on the weekend, which drive demand for particular types of services, drive up costs, but can also drive away locals. We need to invest in municipal infrastructure in order to ensure that businesses can operate effectively and that farmers can process their products locally. One of the big challenges we face is that we have a digital divide. Our rural residents have slow and often unreliable internet. We pay some of the highest cellular and internet rates in the world. Today, high-speed, reliable internet is crucial to the success of businesses. It also allows us to telecommute and learn and bank online, making it possible for us to live and work effectively within this community, and it makes us more self-sufficient. As your MP, I will establish a green venture fund where federal government matches locally raised venture capital to invest in new and local startups. Provide tax incentives and direct rebates for small businesses investing in the clean tech economy. Support the development of local business centers where entrepreneurs and owners can network, collaborate, and get support. Invest substantially in municipal infrastructure to ensure the community has the viability it needs to attract visitors, residents, and customers, like transportation, beautification, arts, and cultural centers. We will bridge the digital divide by ending monopolies for telecoms like Bell and Rogers, which will make room for smaller companies and promote competition. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Our next question will be read by Emily Dean, who is a Thornbury citizen. And I might add, as somebody who went to the city and started a career, worked for some pretty significant companies, but came back here to raise her family.
Thank you for being here tonight. My question is, how will you work with the business community to participate in creating collaborative strategies and solutions for climate change?
First up on this one is Terry.
Thank you very much for that question. Our government has a plan, and our plan is different than a carbon tax. So the carbon tax, for most people I've talked to, in all the conversations I've had, I drive a 4-cylinder EcoBoost car. I take my youngest daughter to piano. That hasn't changed. I've done nothing different, quite frankly, for the most part, since the carbon tax has been introduced, other than we are all paying more money. So what we propose to do is we're going to actually go after the largest emitters instead of all the individuals and find ways through greening technologies so that they can improve the way that they're going about their business. We believe that just to charge people money arbitrarily isn't changing the way or any way we are acting. So we have coming out now, we have a green home tax incentive where 20% if you do any upgrades to your home, and I would like to propose that that go to businesses as well, that you're going to get that tax credit back. So instead of a stick to get people to do things and change their way, we want to do it in a reward system. So we're going to do a lot of it with green technology, and we know a lot of businesses are having a hard time out there right now. So we have to help them. If there's any way we can get them to be better stewards for our environment, we are going to have to invest in those companies and those businesses moving forward. So that's the difference between what we plan on doing and what the other government does, because there has been no significant change, unfortunately, in the way that we're going about it now. And we believe the largest emitters should be the ones, and we also believe that we should be putting our technologies and globally to get the ones that are the highest polluters to change the way that they're doing businesses. We can't buy products from other countries just because it's cheaper and they pollute more. We have to find ways that they change the way they're doing it, and we got to spend money here in Canada. Thank you.
Lorne?
The question is, how will you work with the business community to create collaborative strategies and solutions?
Sorry, closer to the mic.
Sorry. The question is, how will you work with the business community to create collaborative strategies and solutions? Well, I think I want to take issue with the basic question, because I don't think it's a case of working with business and business alone. It does involve working with all of the partners in society to get where we need to go, which is off our over-reliance on fossil fuels. The way to get there, one of the things we have to do is provide incentives to the private sector to produce clean products and services. It's one of the fastest growing sectors of our economy, and there is a wealth of opportunity to be had by creative, idea-based businesses that produce technologies that will remediate environmental problems, solve environmental problems, and produce services cleanly. So the challenge, that is fundamentally the challenge, is how we persuade those kinds of companies to, if you will, establish themselves here, because they're the very kind that will generate the kinds of careers that the people of this region really need. And there are some examples, some interesting ones. I don't have more than 10 seconds to tell you about them, so I'll wait.
Thank you, Lorne, and thank you for noticing the timer. Appreciate that. Sherry?
So as we know, the Green Party is focused on building a sustainable and green economy. And we know that when we do that, when we remove all of the energy and the investment that we're making in fossil fuels, and we begin to focus on subsidizing the green economy, that we're going to generate a tremendous amount of jobs. And through that, there's going to become lots of opportunity for local people and local businesses to thrive in that environment. One thing I want to say is that we are committed to helping all businesses and workers thrive. There will be no worker left behind because of a transition out of a fossil fuel economy into a more sustainable economy. We have an intention to support those workers in retraining and supporting youth in retraining. We have an intention to create apprenticeship programs and training programs to help businesses get the workers that they require. And I believe that we are not on the brink of catastrophe as we look forward into the future, but of opportunity, and an opportunity to build something better and stronger and cleaner, and an opportunity for our communities to be healthier and more connected and more equitable, a chance for us to build an economy that thrives on clean energy, that supports arts and culture, that invests in people and cooperates, to bring peace, order, and good government to the forefront of our democracy. The Green Party has a plan to do all of those good things to make Canada worthy of its world reputation as healthy, clean, tolerant, and peaceful. The plan is fiscally responsible. It has been declared reasonable by the Parliamentary Budget Office. It is thoughtfully organized, and it fulfills the promises Canada made on the world stage to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals we as a world have declared to uphold. Thank you.
Ilona.
The sooner we stop subsidizing the fossil fuel industry, the sooner we will be able to transition over to green energy. And as oh my gosh, SHERRI, I'm sorry. As SHERRI was saying, that will create hundreds of thousands of jobs. So I don't think anyone should be worried about getting out of the fossil fuel industry and not having a job. So that also includes training and, you know, the cost for training and everything else. And we also, and boldly investing in clean technologies. And we want to, instead of giving tax credits to people, businesses or homes for retrofitting green energy technologies, we would rather give grants, because people that can't afford to do it cannot pay for it out of pocket and wait for the tax credit at income tax time. So we believe that grants would help a lot more. And yeah, that's also, we want to invest in electric transit, change the transit over from fossil fuel to electric in the cities and in all the towns everywhere. So that's another way to reduce and get rid of emissions. Thank you.
Thank you for all those answers on that great question. Our next question will be read by Mark Hollingworth. Mark's coming to the microphone right now. Mark is a Blue Mountain citizen.
Hi, everyone. Steve, you're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
If elected as members of Parliament for the riding of Simcoe-Grey, how will you commit to the expansion of robust training programs for small and medium businesses to adapt to our rapidly growing and shifting local economy?
First up on this one is Lorne.
There are a large number of training programs at the federal and provincial level. So many, sometimes one has trouble keeping all the acronyms straight. What we really do need, though, are programs that meet the needs of both working people and employers, and meet those needs at the same time. I think there's a lot that needs to be done to match people with their training and with their career objectives. And that's an area where the current programming, I think, needs significant improvement. The current Liberal government has put additional money into enabling people to get their university education. by reducing tuition and by making it easier for them to pay back their student loans and things like that. Those are all steps along the way, but we really do need to do a much better job of tailoring the kinds of training programs that are made available to employers and working people in the here and now, so that they can both take advantage of them and become more productive in the work that they do.
Sherry?
The sustainable economy is currently estimated at $3 trillion per year. The clean energy sector accounts for 3% of Canada's gross domestic product. In 2017, it generated $285 billion in investment. Moving forward in a green economy is not only good for the environment, it's good for business. This means we must help businesses and workers transition from traditional methods to sustainable ones. We are committed to a just transition for all workers to ensure no one is left behind and everyone has equal opportunity for employment. The burden for retraining workers should not fall squarely on small business owners. The government has a responsibility to assist in this transition so that businesses get up to speed quickly and that it's balanced. There are many jobs with skills that are easily transferable to the green economy, like electricians, pipe fitters, and we will invest $10 billion to fully fund post-secondary tuition, including training programs, colleges, and universities to meet the demand for skilled labor. We will invest in apprenticeships and training programs for industrial trades workers. We will also invest in cooperative programs, training, and apprenticeships at the secondary level to help businesses meet the demand for skilled labor. We will heavily invest and provide support to farms seeking to shift from traditional to agriculture or to organic methods of agriculture. We will provide incentives, zero-interest loans, and grants to small and medium-sized businesses looking to retrofit or shift their businesses to doing more sustainable methods. In doing this, businesses and governments and workers will work together to ensure Canada is a world leader in the movement to a clean energy economy. And in the process, we will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 60% by 2030, lower the tax burden on small businesses, and raise the standard of living for all of us.
Ilona?
I would support any endeavor which helps small business. All training programs should be easily accessible and at no cost to the student. Small and medium business will be federally subsidized for retraining costs. The NDP head-to-toe health care will be ensuring all employees have medical, dental, and drug coverage, and will benefit small business as well to retain, and would help to retain their employees to benefit from their training. And this will also save the employer money. Obviously, they don't have to worry about benefits.
And finally, Terry.
Thank you. As a small business owner, I am fully aware of the time it takes to operate a business and keep it running and afloat. Managing employees and exploring opportunities for growth and expansion are just a few of the day-to-day challenges in operating a business. Being involved myself at the County of Simcoe as Deputy Warden and Interim Warden, and being as a member of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, I became aware of many funding opportunities that assist small and medium-sized businesses that many don't have the time or resources to find out about. I propose to bring this info to small to medium-sized businesses by reaching out to busy entrepreneurs who don't have the time to hunt down these funding sources. I plan to hire a communications officer to liaison with all the small businesses here. I plan to stop into many of the businesses regularly and hold regular business forums in the community to collect ideas on the needs of all our business owners. As well, I wish to continue to push for high-speed rural internet to make sure that all areas will have more businesses, they'll be able to stay at home, and I plan to work on that as well with my communications officer. So I understand how busy you are. I know how hard it is to run those businesses, and you're just day to day, but there are a lot of fundings out there but you just have the opportunity, need somebody to call. Same with the municipality. I've missed out at some of the municipalities before because you don't have somebody to call them, and all of a sudden you find out there was a funding opportunity for something that could have really helped you here locally. So I plan on having somebody that's going to be that go-to person to make sure that we hear about all opportunities available, and we'll make sure that we get it to all the businesses and the local community. Thank you.
So I could not be more thrilled by the person that's asking the next question, because he's an apple farmer, and if you know anything about apple farming, it's happening right now. So with no further ado, John Ardell.
Thank you to all the candidates for coming out and listening to our questions and your great answers. Canadian farmers are known to produce the safest food in the world, as are the U.S. farmers with their Environmental Protection Agency. Our counterpart, being the Pesticide Management Regulatory Agency, PMRA, have for many years promised to harmonize required testing and regulations for renewed and new registrations for crop protection materials. As farmers working here, we are not seeing this happen. Meanwhile, the U.S. is able to use these pesticides and ship that same produce into Canada. Canadian farmers cannot compete, and consumers ultimately end up with foreign produce with unregulated pesticide use. What can be done to ensure the protection of Canadian farmers and proper pesticide regulations to protect and feed all of Canadians with Canadian produce and food?
First up on this is SHERRI.
The health impact of toxic substance in our environment is costing us tens of billions of dollars in healthcare annually. The fact that we are importing food that can be produced locally is wrong. And the fact that often our farmers are at a disadvantage due to fair trade agreements needs to be rectified. We need to look at the model of agriculture and local food production that is self-sufficient, especially in the uncertainty of what the future holds. Food security will become extremely important, and we must ensure that we are building strong, local, self-sufficient supply chains so we can rely on ourselves. Small and medium-sized family farms represent the most reliable quality food source for Canadians. We need to expand and assist local agriculture and provide farming families with their fair share of the consumer food dollar. We support moving towards regional self-sufficiency by promoting the 200-kilometer diet and local food. We need to reestablish local food production in canneries, abattoirs, and value-added food processing right here, so what is grown here is also processed here. We propose replacing 1/3 of our food imports with domestic local production, which will return $15 billion annually to our food economy and our farmers. And we will protect supply management by ensuring that products which are banned in Canada, like the pesticides you mentioned, are not imported in food from other countries. It is critical that we protect the health of all Canadians and our environment by preventing the import of banned substances into our country and absolutely preventing them from entering our food supply. It is critical that we provide our family farms the stability to ensure that they can compete on a world level and thrive in a green economy.
Ilona.
Thank you. We need to strengthen our domestic markets and local economies to reduce imported products. We need to keep and regulate regulations to ensure the quality and safety of our food supply. We will enforce the function of the PMRA to ensure imports are safe and ensure the proper and regulated use of pesticides. I think the truth of the matter is that free trade is not so good. We believe in fair trade because free trade deregulates things. It makes it cheaper for corporations to sell their products. They don't have to worry about anything that has to be clean or pesticides or find better ways of protecting their products, their crops. We need to be regulated, and we cannot allow free trade to deregulate us. We need to create fair trade. That's how we feel about it.
Terry?
Thank you. That was a great question, and it certainly can relate as well to many of the other manufacturing industries that we've had, as we've seen in the latest steel crisis as well. We Conservatives know that creating a level regulatory playing field with international competitors is essential to the success of all our farmers. The previous Conservative government understood this and took concrete action in 2011 by creating the Regulatory Cooperation Council with the United States to better align the regulatory approach of both countries, including pesticides. Reducing federal regulations by 25% and assigning a minister to report directly to the Prime Minister to lead to red tape reduction efforts is an example of how we plan to help all of our farmers. The inaction by the current government to China on the steel, the canola, and the meat products is inexcusable. We need to make sure that we nurture and protect all of our farmers and all the farming industry. I know when you talk about free trade, ideally it works great when you have each partner along the same lines. But all of a sudden, when the government gets involved with one country or the other, that's when the other government needs to step in as well, because we have to make sure that those fields are the same. And if they're not, you need a strong leader to make sure that that message is told, that we need fair trade in our free trade. Thank you.
Lorne?
This is a very specific issue, and it's precisely the sort of thing that I think a diligent member of Parliament would have acted upon and hopefully resolved before it became the issue it obviously has become. The Pesticide Management Regulatory Agency, which is indeed part of Health Canada, is directly responsible for harmonizing regulations with respect to pesticides between the two countries. I can see no basis for permitting pesticides that are allowable in the United States but not approved here to be imported here via produce grown in the United States. That defeats the entire purpose of the regulations. It represents an injustice to Canadian growers. I've written to Health Canada asking for a full explanation. When elected, I shall pursue the matter fully. It ought not to be.
Thank you again for the very insightful answers. Our next question is from Peter Bourdignon, who is a current councillor in the town of the Blue Mountains.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks all of you for coming, and thanks for running. The democratic process is alive and well tonight, and that's you shall be applauded for doing that. I have a very short question. As the town of Blue Mountains and Green County are a very small part of your riding, what would you do specifically to make sure our voice and our needs are met at the federal level?
First up on this is Ilona.
I believe that an MP or MPP or MPs or MPPs, it is their responsibility for the well-being of constituents. Channels will always be open for communication so that their interests will be adequately served. That's if I get elected. All voices have the right to be heard no matter how small the geographical area. First, I would consult with your Beaver Valley Outreach Organization because grassroots understand community needs.
Terry?
Thank you very much for that question, Peter. I believe it's extremely important for your member of Parliament to be seen and to definitely connect with the businesses, the service groups, the social providers, the residents, and the local council to make sure that you hear everything that's important. I understand that your local council is in tune with the needs of the community, from social services to the major infrastructure. I've already met with the majority of the council members, I believe all of them now, and I plan to have an open relationship with each and every one of them. I plan to change the structure of my local office as well that I spoke about earlier. I believe that we need a communications person. When you're an MP, there's 28 weeks that you're actually in Ottawa, that you're not in the riding. fighting for the residents in the riding, but we need somebody that's going to be here during that period of time, like I said, to make sure that there's those opportunities, funding announcements, or whatever we need to do to help the municipalities move forward. And from the social perspective, Andrew Scheer and the Conservative government have a social program guarantee. Our commitment is to maintain and increase the Canada Health Transfer and the Canadian Social Services by at least 3% per year. And under a Conservative government, Canadians will be able to count on stable and predictable health and social program funding. And also, it is critical for Canadians to have confidence that these programs will be there for them when they need them. And like I said earlier, I think the importance of being seen, coming out to the community, and really listening. And I know earlier with the question from the farmer, I think we should have a panel. I've suggested a panel of 5 farmers to talk to on a regular basis to have an idea so we can find out some of those issues prior to those events happening, that a lot of times it's proactive governments that you won't see those situations arise. Thank you.
Lorne? Almost all issues that involve interaction between citizens and government involve all 3 levels to some degree or other, and that's especially true when it comes to social services. As you all know, most of those services are delivered by the province and to some degree the county. However, the overriding needs of the community in such areas as housing, mental health, healthcare, and other social services are met through funding arrangements between federal, provincial, county, and local governments. It would be my role to make sure that the framework for proper social service delivery is in place and that the needs of the community are being met. We'll see that when there are negotiations between the federal and provincial governments over the renewal of the Canada Health Act. The federal government, under Justin Trudeau, has promised to increase substantially the amount of money that's available for things like healthcare, pharmacare, and mental health. One other area that's really where there's a real genuine shortage around here is long-term care facilities. I and some colleagues did a study about a year ago that clearly showed this area was underserved. And that needs to be corrected because that's a real growing area of concern.
SHERRI.
My main responsibility as your Member of Parliament is to ensure that what matters to you is addressed in government. I am able to do that because the Green Party has no party whip, which means my loyalty is to you first and my party second. It means when there is a vote in the House, I am committed to vote according to what you want first and foremost, and I take that responsibility very seriously. To ensure your voices are further heard, we propose a Council of Canadian Governments, which will include representatives from federal, provincial, and municipal governments, as well as Indigenous representation. This council will be responsible for working together on high-priority issues. It will ensure cooperative solutions that recognize the unique needs of all levels of government. Prioritizing social services is critical to the development of a green economy. Investing in carbon-neutral jobs like social workers, childcare workers, healthcare professionals, and tradespeople. As your MP, I will ensure your needs for social services are met by providing universal early learning and childcare to help give all children a better start. Supporting seniors by investing in more community and home support services so they can remain in their homes longer and their communities with their families. Providing universal free tuition for post-secondary institutions and training programs to help youth avoid debt and ensure we have the skilled professionals necessary for jobs in the green economy. And investing in healthcare, providing universal pharmacare, dental care to low-income families, and mental health care, and ensuring that this community has the required number of trained medical professionals to address their needs.
thank you to all for the excellent answers on that question. Our last question comes from the kind of one of the stalwarts of our tourism industry, Andrew Seagward, who's president of the Blue Mountain Village Association and also sits on the board of the Blue Mountain Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks to everyone for being here tonight. And thanks to everyone in the crowd for being here tonight. Business leaders, local residents, this is a great forum. Tourism is a driving force in our local economy, as it is nationally. And in fact, our service sector in general is a driving force of our economy. And I got to level with you on the stage tonight. I've heard some things tonight that are a concern for the business community, particularly service sector employers. At best, maybe a bit of misinformation or outdated perceptions of our employment practices and history. And at worst, a lack of a true understanding of how our economy performs. So my question to you is, how are you going to ensure and advocate that the Ministry of Tourism federally continues its work? How are you going to grow the tourism economy? And more importantly, how are you going to champion us at the federal level and celebrate our accomplishments and contribution to the economic growth of our region?
Thank you, Andrew. First off on this one is Terry.
There you go. Thank you very much, and great question. First of all, as you said, Simcoe-Grey economy is definitely evolved into a large tourist industry, and we require that the Ministry of Tourism be part of that center. He needs to be centered to grow the industry. From golfing, skiing, biking, hiking, basically everything here, it's a huge economic driver. And mostly up here, actually, in Collingwood and Blue Mountains is number one. Local tourism network, we want to hear about the successes that you hear. I think connecting with someone like yourself is very important to hear the successes, but it's also important to hear where we need to go in our next steps. And I think what we need to do, if we're going to get the tourism business moving with the ministry, first of all, we have to promote it largely to make sure that people know where we are, what we do, not just all across the world, but even locally here, regionally. A lot of times it's day trippers, so that's very important. And another big part of the tourism industry here is something we talked about earlier, and it's finding a way, and this is, I guess, getting out of silos of ministers, which often happens. They go in silos and they don't really listen to, we can spend money here and we'll save here, is in the housings, to have housing, because we have so many companies up here, so many businesses, whether it's Blue Mountain, here in Thornbury. I've heard it from so many people that the biggest problem is there's no housing for those individuals here, so they can only drive a certain distance. So I think we need the federal government, not just from the tourism perspective, but I think we need it from a lot of the other ministries to make sure that we continue to go. And your question about being a champion, I understand how important that is to the economy here. I understand how it's basically the face of this community, and I know that if that industry falters, all the offshoots from those companies going out to the rest of the people is absolutely huge. So we got to make sure that we are going to champion that industry, and I plan on doing that. Thank you.
Lorne?
I'm not sure that we're on a different wavelength, because over the years since I came back to Collingwood, I've seen the tourism industry change rather dramatically. And it now offers far more high value-added services than was ever the case, say, even 10, 15 years ago. It's maturing, and they've really grabbed the notion that its role is to provide experiences for people. Now, there is a national tourism strategy, but the question is, how do you bring that from the 30,000-foot level, if you will, back to where we are here in Simcoe-Grey? And the question is, how do we continue to make our area a destination? We have the sports, skiing and boating and beaches and all the rest of it. And those are great, they're wonderful, and as I say, they're moving up in terms of value. But we also have, I think, an opportunity to make South Georgian Bay a destination like Stratford and Niagara-on-the-Lake if we're going to capture the aging market. There's a real chance to take advantage of cultural industries and their potential for good growth. I'm working on some of that. the greatest need is for a performing arts center or perhaps performing arts centers and some real focus. I'm delighted that the local economic development officers are gathering together to identify new types of economic activity, the kind that we need and how we're going to get it. That, in my view, also must include culturally based industries.
Thank you. Sherry?
So investing in zero emissions industries like tourism is a big focus for growing a green economy. In fact, one of the fastest growing sectors in tourism is ecotourism. As a Four Seasons playground with an abundance of natural resources, parks, forests, and stunning scenery, we are well poised to benefit substantially from ecotourism. With our world-class agriculture, food, wines, beer, spirits, and ciders, we are a key destination for local culinary tourism activities, which are another prime sector of growth for tourism. But we have to get the word out about us. I will work to promote this area on the world stage as a destination that provides all of the necessary ingredients for a world-class experience by emphasizing all the things we have to offer that are unique to this region. I believe that arts and culture are fundamental elements to a well-balanced society. To promote tourism, you must have a vibrant art scene and opportunities for visitors to engage with it. I will increase funding to municipal arts and culture organizations, including orchestras, theaters, and publishers, in order to support these sectors on par with other critical sectors of our economy. Make funding for community arts projects and facilities a set percentage of the federal budget. Match support for municipal community arts and cultural projects to align with the highest standards of other municipalities. And we will also provide a guaranteed livable income for every Canadian and extend tax relief to artists to enable them to focus solely on art as their profession. Thank you. This will provide the support necessary for this community to maximize its appeal on the world stage and across Canada to draw more tourism dollars to this local economy.
Ilona?
Tourism is actually a provincial matter. Nevertheless, the federal government should be investing more to advertise and promote our great country as a place to visit with a focus on small towns like yours. Our party would invest in such advertising. Our proposals to assist small business, especially in the tourist industry, would assist tourism as well. So that's the kind of support that we always offer small business, regardless of what their field is, including tourism.
Once again, thank you all for great answers to our questions. I mean, we really wanted to bring this home tonight and make this about what you guys, whomever is elected, can do for our community. And I think you guys really articulated it well, and I want to thank you very much for that. And lastly, and very much most importantly, on October 22nd, get out and vote, exercise your democratic right. 21st, sorry. Sorry. No glasses. Elections.ca.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.